freshly arrived, and I mean freshly arrived, as in I just walked out to the mailbox to get this. Very excited. I I often know a lot about games that I pre-order. This one I know next to nothing other than what its subject is, the publisher, and maybe a few other things. But I expect that most people are going to be getting this copy if they pre-ordered it in the next week or so. So I want to do an unboxing video, new arrivals video, and see what's in it because I actually don't know. I've been interested but not inquisitive, let's call it that way. So this is The Fate of All from Thin Red Line Games. This is my first Thin Red Line game. If I would describe Thin Red Line Games, so all of their games so far have been various scales of sort of Cold War gone hot, mid-'80s modern conflict on the operational level. I almost pulled the trigger on the second printing of Deadly Northern Lights, but I just don't, like, Cold War gone hot isn't really interest me. NATO Pact, or NATO versus Warsaw Pact, not really my thing, and I didn't really want to open that particular can of worms in terms of, like, if I liked it, then, oh man, now I need to start hunting down Third World War games. So I passed on it, even though I think it looks really cool and I'd love to play it someday. But this is, as far as I know, the first Thin Red Line game that does not take place in the 20th century, and in fact goes way, way back. The Fate of All, subtitled The Strategicon Book 1, assuming I guess this might be a series, Alexander's Campaign Against the Persian Empire, the First Diadochi War, and Other Deeds. This is a game about Alexander the Great's campaigns. I believe it is operational in scale. We're about to find out. In the, third century, fourth century BC, I believe. And obviously this is this image is very iconic, especially this one of Alexander. It's been used all over in games for games about this period. Destiny does not wait. I really like Thin Red Line Games, kind of what they're doing. They're almost like counterculture in some ways to wargaming. I think it's only run by one person, Fabrizio, and he's based out of Italy, I think. And all of their games, they have a website, but like all of their games, like to pre-order them, you actually have to email him and be like, hey, I'm interested in this game once he opens it up, or sign up for their mailing list and he'll tell you, and be like, I'm interested in this game, I'd like to pre-order it, and then he'll be like, cool, and then you won't hear anything about it for a long, long time, and then you'll get an email randomly and be like, your pre-order is ready to be paid for and it will ship soon. At least that's how it was for this. And on top of that, the emails that I got for The Fate of All were like, sort of the marketing is like very guerrilla marketing in like the emails that I got about this were all very like in universe. So it was like the pre-order was like a call to arms as if you were a member of Alexander's army. And the shipping notice or the payment and shipping email was like also in that voice as if you were receiving like a missive in this period of world history. So much so that I almost deleted it because I thought it was spam. So anyways, that's the kind of stuff that's going on within Red Line, which I think is really interesting. And I've been very keen to own one of their titles. And this really, really interested me. Just in terms of like, we don't get a lot of Ancients games, and also we don't get a lot of operational Ancients games on top of that. So I was like, I'm gonna take a chance on this. Now, these are really pricey because the print runs, I believe, are very, very small. So if you want this, get on it now. And this is one of those types of games, similar to stuff from like big stuff from MMP, that like if you buy it and decide that you don't like it and resell it, you will be able to make your money back in a couple of years' time when it's very highly sought after. The prices on a lot of Thin Red Line games are extremely high in the secondary market, so I didn't feel too bad about taking a gamble on it, but it looks really, really good. So I want to go through this. I'm looking at this for the first time. I have not even opened this yet. I literally just took the plastic wrap off and propped up the box cover. So this is The Fate of All, Strategicon Book 1 from Thin Red Line Games. So what have we got in here? We've got 2 D10s. I do like a good D10 system. Bags. This appears to have been holding all of these Fate cards. I'm just going to turn one over here. So pretty text heavy. The back of the design here looks really cool. Looks like maybe an oracle of some kind. The Wrath of Apollon. I don't know what these do in the game. It looks like these are potentially event cards. Oriental Decadence. I love the background art here, though. Look at that. These look like they could be event cards, maybe similar to the way I think there are cards in the Third World War series, both of them that Thin Red Line does, and I think they're optional. Maybe the Will of Ahura Mazda, the Achilles Heel. That's funny. It's kind of a reference to the Iliad. And the Odyssey, and obviously we know Alexander went to some of those. He went to the city of Troy. He wanted to see the ruins, so it was history in his time. So these look to be event cards. The artwork on the back of these cards, like in the background, is quite cool. Like this Minotaur, the Minotaur Awakens. We'll have to see what these event cards actually are and what they do. But there's a whole stack of them here. War will make us rich. God is at my side. That guy looks very happy about money. I would love to know where this artwork came from because it's really cool. It reminds me of like almost like a comic book style. Yeah, huh. So, okay, so let's get these out of here and cleaned up, and then we'll go through the rest. Okay, the Fate of All, the Strategicon. I assume this is going to be the rule book. This is a lot thinner than I was expecting. Thin Red Line Games has a reputation for making big, complex, sprawling stuff, but this is only 8 pages. So that I didn't expect, which is really cool. Very nicely illustrated. Here's the table of contents. Interesting that this wasn't printed bigger to fit here, but this is A4 size paper, I believe, I think, or it might be 8.5 by 11, but I think it looks like A4 size. So yeah, it's you've got logistics about your army. It looks like there's 4 different supply checks in a turn. Maybe more than that. Reaction, which I assume would be interception, so avoid battle. Land combat, and the art of siege. Again, the table of contents obviously showing you like it's more like in-universe, right? It's not just an instruction manual. It's trying to purport to be sort of like a manual of the time. So you can see here, the map art looks familiar if you've played like Deadly Northern Lights or Sacred Oil or anything like that. There are other games. There's a the second supply check. The final supply check. So obviously logistics and supply is going to be a very big deal about playing this game. Operational Ancients. But again, 8 pages and like very profusely illustrated. And I am hopeful that this means that the game is like not a bear to learn. I'm actually very surprised. I expected this to be quite a bit longer. Or maybe there's another rule book and maybe this is just this. But okay, well, there we go. 8 pages. So that's awesome. I'm going to read through that. And just take a look. Maybe not read, maybe just skim through it. Then we have got the next booklet here. Okay, so immediately I'm wrong. The rules of play are here. This is, I guess, just like a strategy manual to like how to play well. Okay, the Fate of All, scenarios and designers' notes. This is a much bigger booklet. I'm not going to flip through the whole thing, but just to get a sense of what's in here. Designers' notes. I think this looks like scenarios. Yeah, so we've got 3 scenarios in here. There's a campaign. There's also additional rules in here for things like Sparta. And then in addition to that, Spartan Revolt, Spartan Surrender, Thracian Surrender, Thraki, Crete. So there's some extra rules here. I guess that'll be scenario by scenario. This paper is like really hard to turn, so let's reach from up here. So we've got the Anger of Achilles scenario. Yeah, so this is like Alexander's like first campaign. It looks like, so 4 years, the whole map. So it looks like one map we're talking about here. The setup, there's the different factions. You've got Macedonians. Here's some scenario rules. So this is kind of just a general. Here's the 10,000 again. So this is, okay, so if, this is predates actually the first campaign. So this is Alexander's campaign. This takes place before that, it looks like, with Philip II of Macedon. Yeah. Leading up to Philip's assassination. We've got, that one's a, okay, map A. So it does look like there's multiple maps in here. So this is like the year before, basically, or a couple years before. So April to December. Here we have Arise Hellas. This is, looks like it's after Alexander's death. If you've played Successors, you can recognize some of these names. So yeah, so this one's just map A. Scenario 3, the Shattered Bonds, is this, so maps A and B, so maybe more than 2 maps in here. That's what you get when you come to something new. So yeah, this is like the Successors War, it looks like, which is cool. That it's not just subdivisions of the campaign. The Scenario 4, it all comes to this. This appears to be Alexander against Darius. Okay, so 4 different scenarios, which is really cool. And then we've got a bunch of designers' notes and a bibliography and some developers' notes, which is cool. Okay, so that is that booklet. And now here's the rules, and this is more kind of what I was expecting, if I can pull this out of here. Yeah, so this is a much thicker booklet. And this is 23 pages. So it's actually still not as um, as long as I was expecting, given their other games, but definitely pretty dense. I mean, there's a lot of subclauses to each of these sections. Command range, leader movement, army maintenance. Yeah, a lot of logistics in here, deploying for battle, shipping routes. So, you know, if logistics in the ancient world are your thing, this might be right up your alley. Here's a look at some of the units, and we'll get to the counters in a second. Got a melee value, a morale, how big they are, combat. So 23 pages of rules, again, dense, but not super threatening or intimidating, let's say. What else do we have in here? We have like a large overview map of all of the game maps put together, all the different sort of regions. So this is kind of what the game is going to cover, and I assume that there will be 3 or more maps in here given what the scenario said. We can see Anatolia, Greece, Syria, and North Africa. This is single-sided, not sure what this is going to be used for. We've got a Persian forces display. Morale, treasury, armies, fleets. So it looks like off-map boxes if you would like to hold some of your units, I believe. Macedonian forces. These are single-sided. What else do we got in here? It's an adventure. We have got the turn record track, the satrapies alignment chart. Who are they supporting? Persia or Macedonia? The year. So we've got monthly turns, it appears. Let's see. The foraging, yeah, so this is, I mean, this also kind of reminds me of Imperium Romanum as well, which is interesting. We've got all the years for possible scenarios, as you can see. We've got every turn, it looks like to be a month. Makes sense. Here are the charts and tables that come in their own booklet, oriented horizontally, and it's pretty thick, actually. This is more what I was expecting from a complexity level. So we've got movements, terrain key, force marching, reconnaissance, reaction, surrender, siege, assault. You know, that's pretty standard stuff, DRMs. Here is the foraging table. That's cool. It looks like there's maybe counter foraging in this game. Foraging cavalry size minus raiding cavalry size. That's neat. Sea shipping, attrition. I'm trying to think of the last Ancients game that really sea shipping was like a huge deal. I know it plays a huge part in Antony and Cleopatra, but it's really abstract there. Faction morale, donations, briberies, revolts. A lot of tables in here. Land combat. This, yeah, looks, it's an odds-based system with a DRM. Looks like a D10 roll with modifiers. It doesn't look like it's too, it looks like it's pretty trim in terms of like the gradient of losses you can do, but then there's a retreat losses table that looks like it's percentage loss. There's a pursuit table, a route table, naval combat. Down here we've got battle movement table. That's interesting. I wonder what that's about. Missile combat. As opposed to land combat, we've got melee combat over here. I wonder if there's a tactical battle resolution here. And then on the back, the unit legend, the unit types, how much it costs to produce those units, where you can recruit specific units. So obviously if you're getting Thessalian horsemen, they have to come from Thessalia or Epirus. That's cool. So yeah, it reminds me a lot of Imperium Romanum. Shipyards table where ships can be built. That's interesting. Obviously in the ancient world, you had specialized locations for that, a lot of that stuff even more. So given resource constraints, there's 2 charts and tables booklets. And then we've got the counters. Not very many of them. They look to be, well, let's see. Let's pull them all out. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets here. White core. The white should pop on the map nicely. So here's counter sheet 5. It was on top. These look to be 3/4 inch or maybe bigger than 5/8. Maybe, yeah, it looked like to be 3/4 inch, maybe a little smaller. We've got some markers here. Got supply markers, requisition markers, plunder. Looks like some battle markers. Here are some units. Sorry about the focus. We have, as I say, as I unfocus it. So we have got some units here. We've got hoplites, Greek hoplitei. Got some cavalry. See if I can come in closer. Super professional, I know. Infantry. Some leaders. More hoplites. There's some army size markers, some fleets. Looks like looks like this is for the track for the satrapies, so who they're supporting, whichever area on the map. Got some missile markers, bunch more leaders and counters. Yeah. Folks that I've never even heard of. So every faction looks like, here's Medea at the top, India, Parthia, as we know Alexander reached those places. Kilikia, southeast Turkey, looks like a light horseman or ranged horseman, potentially light cavalry is what that means. I do like the counter art. It looks nice. I like the color palette that's used here. And, you know, they're not super thick, but I think they're thick enough. These are going to punch in rows. So as you can see, there's a gap there. And then you'll probably want to clip these, I would guess. Hopefully they clip well. I haven't, they have an interesting texture to them. Yeah, and here we've got some attrition markers, a bunch of those. And then we've got one more counter sheet. So this looks fun. I'm curious to see which scenario will be good to learn the game. There's the Thessalians here, heavy cavalry and hoplites there. Okay, now let's look at what appear to be the maps. Here we've got the first one, and I will try and spread these out. The hexes are huge, by the way. Holy crap. Here's the size of a unit, and there's the size of a hex. I did not expect that. All right, let me spread these out and see if we can show you the maps. Okay, and the reason that the hexes are so huge on this map is because this is the battle map. So this is presumably the tactical battle map where you can fight the battles, or maybe must fight the battles, for engagements in this game, and that is why the hexes are so big. So this kind of reminds me of something like Commands and Colors Ancients, or any Ancients game, battle game, where you've got just basically open terrain. They typically didn't want to fight on like crappy terrain. So this is the battle map. And then we have got some more maps in here, and here is an example. The hexes in the battle map are a lot bigger. This is much more what I was expecting on the regular map. This appears to be Syria, and there's Damascus, and there's Cyprus. Let me get this open. So here it is fully open. This is going to be the south. This is map B, and this is going to be sort of on the southeast end. There are more maps in the game. It looks like we might have a 4-mapper here where the center of the map is the Mediterranean. Because I am opening one here right now. These appear to be slightly more narrow than typical 22 by 34 maps. Here we've got essentially the map that's going to go adjacent to this. So there's the Mediterranean. Here's the island of Crete. And this is going to go over here on this edge. The paper is quite nice. It's heavyweight stock, and it has sort of like the counters, it has kind of like a plasticized finish to it. Let's see the next one that we've got in here. So it looks like 4 maps for the game all told, but it's not going to be 4 full-size maps. So you might be able to get away with this on 3 tables, or even maybe 2 if the tables are big enough. Here is what would go to the north of this map. Here's Kilikia, southeastern Anatolia. This is actually quite cool because this is essentially the area, maybe a little more west on mine, that my game, Seljuk, Byzantium Besieged, is going to cover. And so it's great to see a map with this topography. Obviously, we're talking about almost 2,000 years, well, about like 1,400 years later for my game. But this is generally the map that Seljuk is going to have here. So I'm actually quite familiar with this geography. We've got the, so we've got central Cappadocia, which is extremely rugged up in here, all the way to the Black Sea, Paphlagonia. This would be Trebizond, right? Different name back in the day. And then all of this becomes Armenia. Here's Lake Van. Manzikert would have happened somewhere in this general area in the mountains here. I think this is really nicely done. You can actually see how rough Eastern Anatolia is and how it gives way to Syria down here, down the Euphrates River, and why maneuvering an army in this region is extremely tough if you're trying to go west. But how the open Syrian desert and plains are just, the perfect terrain for moving large armies and whatnot with all the agriculture. Here's Amida, and here's Nisibis, famous fort town. And then this even goes further east, deeper into Armenia in the East. But I think it's cool to see another game tackle this topography, and I really like that. I really like the art on it. It looks quite nice. It feels like you're looking almost like a satellite image. The color palettes and the way that the shadows and details are done is really cool. So yeah, so this is going to be the upper right-hand map, and then we've got the upper left-hand map here. If I can get it open one-handed, I've been doing okay so far. This is going to be Western Anatolia, all the way to Greece. Open. All right, there we go. So here we go. Here is the west coast of Anatolia. Smyrna. We've got, we will have at some point Constantinople up here. Right now it's called Byzantion. It's a Greek colony. And then this goes all the way west to Thessaly, Macedon, you know, all of the places in the Peloponnese that you'd be familiar with. So it looks like a fairly sizable map once you get this whole thing put together. I imagine that the 4 full map game would be very interesting to play. Here's Pella. This is, I believe, Alexander's hometown, or at least where he was going to be buried after he died and never made it there. His body never made it there. So 4 maps, all really nicely done. Heavyweight paper, textured in a way that feels very resilient. I would still use Plexi with these probably, but if you can flatten them out, these would be nice to play on. They won't wear. They don't feel like they would wear. So those are the maps. What else is in the box? I think that's it. So here's the box. Here's the back of the box. This is like, there's nothing on the back. It's just a black thing. So this is the Fate of All. I'm very excited to dive into this. Let me, real quick before I close this video out, I'm just going to flip through the rules and get a sense of like what kind of weight we're talking here. But I'm very excited to see what's going on with this game, because as you can tell from this unboxing, I am like, don't really know a lot about it, but I am captivated by this period and the scale and ambition of what is being attempted here. Okay, so in looking through the rules, it actually all looks fairly interesting. There's a lot of the combat system, the sort of operational strategic combat system is all based around the management of your army's route level, and it seems like an interesting combat system because you get sort of like these different phases at which you can retreat during the combat. You use movement points to fight, to start a combat. You can retreat during battle. That might cause additional losses as you flee. Commanders, you can protect your commanders from death, but that lowers your morale level of the army. So it's some interesting choices to be made there. Movement looks pretty standard. There's a fog of war element to the game where you're not allowed to look at stacks, and stuff in the off-map displays is you're not allowed to look at, but you can also reconnoiter the enemy based on how much light cavalry you have and the defender has, and you can get a little cavalry skirmish to see if you can get some information about the enemy stacks. Different size battles are different can be different, so like you can have a skirmish battle versus a major battle. But I think the one major question I had was how does the game work with like the tactical battles and whatnot. So there's a lot of supply stuff in here as well, shipping routes, baggage trains, depots, how you forage for supplies and stuff like that. Should be really interesting to get into. And there's a light political layer, it seems, as well. But I did find that the rules end on page 16. So 16 pages of core operational rules for the game, which is actually not too bad. It is dense, but it does seem to make a lot of sense. I did read through some of the sections, and it all seems like I conceptually could understand it. So it seems like it won't be too hard to learn how to play. Now, playing it well with all this logistics, that may be another thing. Here's where the tactical combat rules start, and the tactical combat rules are when you would use the tactical board. And this is where most of the combat unit values that we saw earlier, with like their melee versus range and stuff, that's where this comes into play. So if you want to take the time to do the tactical combat, there's another 6 pages of rules, 7 pages of rules, and this is where you get into like things like the engagement sequence and the pullback sequence and disengaging, and it obviously is a lot more detail going on. In terms of like what's happening, obviously why the hexes are so big, it looks like you can be co-located in them at least for a period. Unit facing comes into play. So this is both a tactical battle game and an operational game all in one, it does seem. And I think that is so cool. I am really looking forward to playing this at some point soon, or at least learning it, because I think this would be a blast to have sort of like an epic experience where you're doing, a campaign here, but also doing the tactical battles. I just think it would look really cool on the table. So anyway, that is the newest from Thin Red Line Games. This was kind of a meandering unboxing, but I'm very excited about it, and I didn't know much about it. Other than that, I was in for it. The Fate of All, Strategicon Book 1. Hope that means we're going to get Strategicon Book 2. This is campaigns, operational level campaigns of Alexander the Great in Asia Minor and the Mediterranean from Thin Red Line. So look for some coverage on this at some point soon. I hope it doesn't make my end of year Shelf of Shame video.